Hi, everybody. Emmanuel, this is Pastor Lillier with a cold after Easter. I guess when someone said, stand up and the peace of the Lord be with you and share that peace with somebody, then apparently some germs were spread, but I'm fine. It's just a cold. So this is the second Sunday of Easter. The great thing about Jesus when he rose from the dead is that even though the disciples did not believe him and go running to see if he had indeed been raised from the dead, Jesus raced toward them. And in the gospel that I'm going to preach upon this Sunday, the disciples are in a house and it's locked and they're fearful of them being found by someone. The great thing is they're found by Jesus, and Jesus kind of just pops in the middle, kind of like Casper the ghost. He just ends up in the middle. He doesn't knock on the door. I just love his style. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my word. And Thomas had an orthodontist appointment, one of the disciples, and it wasn't there. But go back to the story that Jesus says, okay, you don't believe, so look and see and touch, and it's really me. And they're like, oh, this is so awesome. So Thomas gets done with his orthodontist appointment, and he sees the disciples, and the disciples say, you should have been there. Jesus showed up, and he's risen from the dead. And Thomas says, unless I get what you got, see what you saw, hear what you heard, I won't believe. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a spoiler alert, is that people call him Doubting Thomas, but I don't think he's doubting. He wanted exactly what he didn't receive when he was there. And what's great about it is that Jesus didn't hold that against him, because Jesus, in this gospel text, later a couple of days says, hey, I heard you want to see, you want to touch, here you go. And he believes. So this is not only about our unbelief, but it's more about what Jesus will continue to do, so we do believe. I'll take vitamin C, start eating some vegetables, get some rest, drink some water. See you at worship on Sunday. In the meantime, be well. God bless.
Thank you for joining us for Lectionary Plus, and thank you, Pastor Lilliard, for that devotion to start us off. This is a fascinating story of Thomas. St. Thomas, as you've heard, he often gets a bad rap. He's known for this story, the story that we will hear on Sunday. He wasn't there for the first appearance of Jesus, and when he hears the stories from his colleagues, from his fellow disciples, he doesn't believe them. The famous line, unless, I touch and see, I will not believe. Then Jesus comes back, walks through the walls, goes to Thomas, and shows him his hand and feet. Two comments there. This is often the way it happens with torture victims. Heard often this story in Africa after the genocide, where many people read this story of Thomas. And it was the tortured one, Jesus, who had to show signs of his torture to someone to have them believe. And for those who have been through torture, often they have to help those around them with the suffering they've gone through. Because like Thomas, we doubt it, we don't believe it, it's just too horrific to even think about. So this is a favorite text, not just for Christians, but for others around the world who have been tortured. But also we should remember, Thomas comes to faith. Now, Jesus says, blessed are those, who believe without seeing. But Thomas becomes one of the most dynamic missionaries of the world. Once Jesus rises into heaven, he goes first of all, to Ethiopia, gets on a ship and goes to India and starts a brand new church of Jesus believers in India. To this day, you can go to the St. Thomas churches in India, and they will tell the stories of this marvelous disciple, yes. Doubter, well, at that point, in that room, yes, but then he becomes the believer Thomas, the missionary Thomas, traveling all over the world, but especially to India, starts a church and is known for his faithfulness, not for his doubt. So we have a lot to celebrate as we hear this wonderful story on Sunday about faithful Thomas, missionary Thomas, as he came to overcome his doubt with a missionary zeal and faith. Thanks for joining us on the Lectionary Plus. Bye-bye now.